everybody can see and hear me okay. If you can't, please put it in the chat box. This is the first event that we launched from the Jesse Miranda Center for Hispanic Leadership. And for those of you who aren't aware of what the Jesse Miranda Center is, this is the one and only time that I'm gonna, that it will be okay for you to pull out your phone and be on your phone, because you can scan this QR code. You can look at our Instagram page. Website is still in the making, but whatever you need to know about the Jesse Miranda Center will be found there. So look at that QR, or look at, you can find us in VU_JMC. It's the Jesse Miranda Center at Vanguard University. There's two Jesse Miranda Centers for Hispanic Leadership, and this is why I want to be very specific. At Vanguard University, we exist really to educate, equip, and empower Latina and Latino leaders. And the late Dr. Jesse Miranda had a three-pronged approach. It's for the community, it's for the campus, and it's for the church. And that's the very same thing that we want to perpetuate. We want to continue the legacy. And whatever we do here really is going to attempt to nurture and affirm those three constituents: the church, the community, and the campus. So therefore, this first initial event to affirm Latinas in leadership really comes out of a conversation that I had with Dr. Itze Calleja. I started at Vanguard on February, and the first thing that I wanted to do was really listen to the community. What has this event, what has the center been? What role has it served the community? And what are the challenges and the questions? And Dr. Itze Calleja told me, a major need that we have right now is we need to affirm our Latina students. They're coming into universities by large numbers because, those are the stats. And they come in with low self-esteem. They come in facing the imposter syndrome. And we need to affirm them. We need to encourage them that they can, que sí se puede, que sí se puede. And therefore, after that, I told her, my commitment to you, Dr. Itze Calleja, because of your leadership, because of who you are, the things that you've done, is that one of the first events that I want to do is really that. I want to put something together to affirm our Latinas in those three categories: campus, church, and the community. So that being said, also let's recognize it is Hispanic Heritage Month. Yes, Hispanic Heritage Month, a time where we can come and we can recognize really the contributions of our community to the larger US society, but more specifically tonight to recognize the roles of Latinas in leadership. Women like Ellen Ochoa, the first Latina in space. Dolores Huerta, who doesn't know about Dolores Huerta? Activist and organizer. Selena, Biri Biri Bam Bam. My daughter loves that song. That's why I just had to do that. Sonia Sotomayor, first Latina US Supreme Justice. Rigoberta Menchú, indigenous activist. And this is not to mention the tias and madrecitas and abuelas in our lives and the women on this panel. This is why I'm so excited about this, because we get the chance to recognize the contribution that they have done amidst National Hispanic Heritage Month. If you have noticed something, is that this is a meeting. It's not a webinar, so you're going to be seeing a lot of faces. But if you want, on the upper right-hand corner, you can actually just set the setting for speaker view. That way, you only see the speaker, the person who's talking, the person who's answering the question, or Itzel, who's going to be our moderator. If you have any questions throughout this time, please send them my way. Put it in the chat box. I will be facilitating this. I will grab all the questions, and as many as we can, we'll try to answer them by the end of this session. We'll have some Q&A time. And lastly, on behalf of the Vanguard community, the Jesse Miranda Center for Hispanic Leadership, the Jesse Miranda Center External, the student, staff, and faculty, ministers, and our amazing panelists, just welcome to this event, which is Cinderella, right? Cinderella, it's for her. And this is a play on word on Cinderella, of course. So as we know, Amazon just launched a remake of Cinderella with a Latina lead, which is what prompted us, and it inspired us to do this, to name it this way. But for those of you who are online, we have males and females, of course. I wanted to do a quick preamble. The role of men in this particular conversation is necessary. We know the disparity, we know the stats, we know the realities of things, whether that be in the workforce, whether that be at home, whether that be in civil movements. The women have played such a critical and important role and in our lives. But so this conversation, but this conversation is for everyone. Definitely it's for women, for Latinas to be affirmed in their ethnic and cultural identity, in leadership, in the spaces that they find themselves in. But for men, for us, for men like me, to come in and join in the conversation, to listen, to hear, to be curious about what it is, about the experience of Latinas in leadership. And in whatever ways we can, recognize the spaces that we are in, the privilege that we have, and how we can utilize it to continue to bring equity, gender equity across all platforms, whether that be in politics or in higher ed, in the workforce, or in our own homes. So that is the preamble that I wanted to invite us all into this conversation. Now, let me introduce our moderator, my good friend, Itzel Calleja. She was born and raised in southeastern region of Veracruz, Mexico, the capital called Jalapa, a relatively small town known for its lush tropical vegetation. This is also where Itza grew up with her grandparents and two younger sisters. She often says, I grew up in a very loving home and my grandma was always making good food for us. I need to get some of that good food itself, just making a note of that. And she also says, Veracruz was where I went to high school and finished my education until I was 23 years old. Eventually, Itzel moved to the north, to Monterrey, an industrial mountain town, where she got her master's in genetic engineering and PhD in molecular biology from Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León. She would also meet her husband there. His name is George, and he currently works with helping with Alzheimer's at UCI. Itzel, the time is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Norland. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to everybody. And I'm going to start to say that I love the slogan that Norland create for this Cinderella or Cinderella, which is if the chancla or the glass chancla, I would say fits, wear it. And I have to say, I haven't lost my chancla. I'm wearing my two chanclas very well. I have to say that. And also, I need to say thank you to Norland, to the two Jesse Miranda centers. Dr. Miranda is here in the public. And I need to say that all this is thanks to all this conversation, but it was made it possible because these two guys, and there are the guys in here, they made it possible. As I always think, and I've said many times to Norland, next to a strong woman, you have to be a strong guy, right? No in front or no behind, side by side, because the two, we need to be helping each other. It's like, that's how it is. My husband needs to help. Sometimes he will pick care of my kids. Sometimes he will do homework with them, food, right? And I'm sorry, Norland, I'm not cooked very well. It was my grandma. I have this kind of Coco grandma. She was making all kind of food, delicious food. And I kind of passed that part that I have all the traditions, but not the good cooking part, but I try sometimes. Thank you everybody for being here. It's really a pleasure to talk about this topic for me. It's in my heart. I'm a Latina, Hispanic Latina, and I feel like sometimes, right, our students, and I see this in many of my students since I am a teacher or a professor, and I mentor many of our Latina students. They, unfortunately, they come in with this insecurity because culturally speaking, sometimes they made us to feel kind of less compared to the males, right? And we bring all this cultural background with us. And sometimes I feel it's necessary to let them know that they are the value that they have, and also that whatever they want to dream is possible. So I told many times to Norland that, and I appreciate that he really made this also to Pastor Miranda. I have to tell you that a couple of years back, I was the director of the Jesse Miranda, and I have the opportunity to know Dr. Jesse. And it was such an incredible experience. I never think that this really touched me after he passed away. He was such a good leader, but it was like a grandpa. You know, it was not this kind of leader that pushed you to do things. He knew what to say in the right moment. He always cared for everybody. So I think it's part of our legacy, right? Continue with his name. And also supporting. One of the important things that Dr. Miranda did, it was really pushing for the success of all Latin students, or Latin American, Hispanic, Latin American students. And he really did. He brought a lot of the students that now they have a PhDs. And I think for me also, I think probably Norland, probably Pastor Miranda feels the same, that we need to continue with this, which is not easy. It's a very strong legacy to continue. But thanks to this center, we have a lot of students that feel comfortable, they feel themselves, that they can speak out, and they don't hide anything, right? Because we all speak the same language, which is like to be at home. Doesn't matter if they speak Spanish or no, because that doesn't only means to be Latino, but they feel like they are free to speak. And that's such an important topic for us, for our community. So I really appreciate that we have this opportunity for really talk about it. So yes, thank you for this space. And I'm gonna start to probably talk about, well, as I mentioned, for my passion to support all the students, doesn't matter if they're women or men, especially Latinos, because that's coming from heart, from home, but anyone who really needs the extra push, we are here to help, right? It should be equal to everybody. Education should be accessible to everybody in the same sense. All right, but I'm going to start to mention and talk about these wonderful women that there are today with us this afternoon. And I really need to say thank you for your time, because I know that you need to make a space. I'm pretty sure I was reading all the compliments that you guys have, and you guys have a lot curriculum, right? A lot of experience. And I'm pretty sure you are giving us this time for good. So I really appreciate that you are here. So I'm going to start with Wanda Bellis. Wanda Bellis, and I don't know I don't know if we have on the slide, or I'm going to put her on the spot, because it's very important for us today. She actually hold a bachelor in English from the Nyack College, and later he have a master, and he decided to go all the way. And when I was reading, I was thinking, what a wonderful example. He give back to their own school all that he learned. So later on, when he was employed for the college that he studied, he started as a director of the alumni relations, and later he started to transition. But the position that Wanda was holding, right, it was from not just collecting money, not just community engagement, also was a leadership development in a moment of probably crisis of intervention, mentorship, and spiritual formation. So if you notice, it went from something that started slow to be a big deal, right? He started in 2010 as Dean of Students, right? And I think now since 2019, she also holds the role for Vice President for Students Development. So he works a lot with our students. And as we all know, that's not an easy homework to do. We need to know how to listen carefully and know how to, handle very well the problems. So Wanda, thank you so much. I'm gonna continue with Janet Salguero. I hope I pronounced right. And Janet, it's actually a reverend. He's a pastor in a multicultural church in Gathering Place in Orlando, Florida. She also is the vice president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition. And listen this, because this is such important. She carried the voice of many of us, right, who comes with a lot of problems in our communities here in the United States. She focused in immigration, Just talking about that is such a huge problem. Education and health. And also, right, he having see how our community have been growing in diversity. And she have been observing how the demographics in our country probably have been changed. She always have a voice for advocacy work, right? And he also have a lot of leadership in governmental agencies, in the Department of Health and Human Service. So I think Reverend or Pastor Salguero, she also, I need to say, she's a mom. She having traveled a lot around the world. She have been in Europe, Latin America, and Africa. And pretty sure she has seen so many things. I don't even want to go and ask what have been your path, because I'm pretty sure you have so many things to talk about it, right? I'm gonna move next with Lori Farrell Harrison. And I was just looking and say that in your CV that you also are fluent in Spanish, which I really appreciated. People who sometimes when I came to this country didn't speak English. So I'm so glad that we can share something more in common besides to be a women's, that it's also that we can speak the same language. But Lori, she is the city manager of Costa Mesa. And she has been working in a local government for many years. So she have a lot of experience in public and private sectors. She, before to having the city manager, she was the assistant city manager in Huntington Beach, another city close to Costa Mesa. And she's been responsible for coordinated complex initiatives in many aspects of the government. But she have emphasis in the fiscal sustainability, transparency, and process improvement, which is very hard. You need to be a very strong woman in this field to really observe and follow the law, right? So she having received a lot of awards because she have a lot of leadership skills. And some of the awards, I'm just gonna mention some of them, that they have been offered to her. It's the Association of California Cities, like Orange County Chapter Golden Hub of Innovation, and also the California Society of Municipal Finances Officers, because she also brings a lot of good things to our community. So also, right, she loves to do sky and snowboarding. And I need to say that she's very brave because she also have 4 teenagers. So just forget about the snowboarding. Just concentrate that she have 4 teens right now. That talks very, very good about her. And we also need to appreciate that Senator for District 16, Shannon Grove is here. I want to say thank you so much because I'm pretty sure you are a very busy woman. And she is actually from California. She is from Bakersfield. She said that after graduation, and she graduated for Irving High School, she went to the Army and served in the 5th Corps in Frankfurt, Germany. So it means that she had been in Europe, I'm pretty sure in other parts where probably she had been moved. And one of the important things that she was able to observe in person was when the Berlin Wall went down and how the Soviet Union went down too. And I think this experience for her really increased her love for many things. She said for their country, but I'm pretty sure that the eyes can tell more than 1,000 words, right? And she had the commitment to protect our guarantees and freedoms. So she has such an important job because she really wants to be sure that everything happened, and it really happens. So now she came back to Bakersfield, and since 1993, she started an employment agency with her sister-in-law, which is called Continental Labor Staffing Resources. Now, she continued the interest for Kern County, and he was elected California State in 2010. And for the last 6 years, she really defended the community values and all the industries. right? Because that's the passion for. And she was the first woman veteran elected to the assembly, and it was very overwhelmingly re-elected twice. So not just once, twice. I also need to say that they have 5 kids and also 6 grandkids, because I like to see when the women's, right, we have so many roles. It's not just to be something important, it's also to be important for our family. And that's coming also very cultural for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here and for sharing part of your life with us today. So I don't know, I should probably give time for you guys to say something, but I just want to hear more about the journal that you guys have for us to share today. And I'm gonna probably start with the questions. And please, I don't want that you feel like, oh, this is the typical teacher, right? I wanted that you feel like more like a conversation. I think that when women get together, oh my gosh, right? Like, hold it, because we go very deep in topics and we don't stop. That's the other thing. We talk, but there are very, very good conversations. And I hope the students, the people, the women's, the guys that are here listen to us tonight, they really, really learn something from you guys. I'm with my eyes and my ears open because I want to learn from you. Thank you. And I'm going to start with the first questions, if you guys are okay with that. And well, sorry, I'm very direct. You can see I'm a professor. I'm going to say, yes, please. Let's start with our first, right? And I want just to remind all the people who is in here that if you have any questions, we're going to have a part for questions and answers at the end. So we're going to be respectful for everybody to speak. All right, so I'm going to start. If you can introduce yourself, besides I say about you, and share a little bit about your leadership journey with us. How was this work for you? Did you imagine to be here? Do you imagine that you will have this position, right? I always tell myself, I don't even imagine to be here in the United States talking to you in English. So if you guys want to share with us what it is to be in this journey and a little bit about yourself. And we can start with Wanda, please.
Well, good evening. It is so great to be here with all of you. This is an exciting time, and I love the opportunity to spend talking about leadership and around Latina women, of course, and just the journey that we've been on. But it's very impactful to think about just all the women that we can make an impact on tonight. If it's just one, we've done our job. And so thank you for this opportunity. Well, I'm a Bronx native from Puerto Rico. My family's from Puerto Rico, born and raised in the Bronx, and the oldest of a family of 3. My father and my mother are pretty hardworking. My dad was hardworking, but he struggled with an addiction, a bad drug addiction. And my mom worked in the education field. She was a paraprofessional for the Board of Education in New York City. I never really thought about going away to college. I really just thought about surviving living in the Bronx and getting a high school diploma and really just learning how to type, because my mom ingrained in me that if I learn how to type, I can get a job in the Board of Education and work my way through that system just the way that she had planned to do for her life. She has retired after 45 years of being in the Board of Ed. And little did I know that God would have something else for me. I began to think about what life would look like outside of the Bronx. And God very much made that clear to me. I became a Christian in a small Pentecostal church on Fordham Road in the Bronx that led me to relationships and mentorships and a lot of amazing women to speak into my life, to help me see life bigger than growing up in the projects with a father that was on heroin and a mom that just wanted me to learn how to type. And eventually I graduated from high school. I learned about a small Christian liberal arts college in New York, right outside of New York City, which was my college, made my way there. And I have spent the last 31 years of my life at NIAC. I graduated from the undergrad program, went on for a grad program. Now I'm in the Doctor of Ministry program, working on my dissertation. I've raised 4 children. I am a grandmother for 2 weeks now. I've had my son have his first child with his wife, and so celebrating that. And you asked the question, did I ever think I would be in the position I am now? No, never. But God did. And he showed me a glimpse of that when I first gave my heart to the Lord. And I believe that the Lord has just continued to show me that he had a bigger purpose for my life than the one I dreamt for myself. And so it is a blessing to be at NIAC still on the other side, like you mentioned, now as a VP and working with so many amazing leaders, but to give back to the community that made space for someone like me. And so that's a little bit of my journey. And I'm just very grateful for all that the Lord has done in my life and through my life in a small little town called NIAC that I get to be a part of.
Thank you so much. And more good for coming, Wanda. As we say, God have more things for good to become. Thank you so much. Let's see, Janet.
Hola, bendiciones a todas. Thank you, Norderlin, for the opportunity. It's an honor to meet you. Gracias a todas las mujeres. Thank you to all of the women and all of the men that are here. I'm in sunny Orlando, Florida, so it is almost 10 p.m. here, which is why my room is a little bit dark, but thank you for the opportunity. I have been married to my high school sweetheart now for over 20 years. We have 2 beautiful boys. Jack Gabriel is 16 and Seth is 12. I'm also a native New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, de familia puertorriqueña, and have been here in Orlando, Florida for the past 6 years. And Itzel, you mentioned a little bit, I co-pastor with my husband, a beautiful church named The Gathering Place. Some of the female leaders are here as we speak. Hola, familia. And we also co-lead a national organization where with together about 3,000 churches across the US. We serve the last, the least, and the lost. So that's a little bit of my background. Isa, you asked, how could we describe our leadership journey, right? I would say that my leadership journey has been an iterative process, right? It has been a process of building, a process of tearing down and rebuilding again, of refining, of improving. My leadership journey to all of the ladies and men that are here has been one of trial and error. Put a little emoji, a little heart emoji, if your leadership journey has also been one of trial and error. And it has been one that has brought me to my knees, one that has brought me to apologize, but one too that has brought such great fulfillment and inner satisfaction that I am right where I'm supposed to be and doing exactly what I am called to do. You know, leadership journeys are not linear. They're more like waves. Have you seen the waves of the beach, like longitudinal waves? It's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but always moving forward. I would say that the traditional definition of leadership is the action of leading people towards a common goal, right? A leader presents a vision and then persuades others to make that vision their own. But to everyone that's listening here and to everyone that will re-listen to this through the recording, being able to persuade someone else requires you to know yourself. And if there's anything that I can leave, any nugget that I can leave in this webinar, in this charla of chanclas today, I would say know yourself. That the importance of self-leadership, knowing who you are is being able to influence your thinking, your feelings, your own actions, and it's leadership from the inside out, and that is absolutely foundational.
Thank you so much. And I really like what you say when we serve the last, the least, and the lost. It really is, you know, when you're serving 100%, it's to everybody, doesn't matter. And I was just laughing because sometimes I didn't describe the leadership in my case, but life is like that. You have tsunamis, and sometimes you have the peace of quiet ocean, right, that you can enjoy. I assume the leadership is the same. There are good moments and there are very hard moments. But because of that, I really appreciate more the women's in leadership, because they need to be strong. They have to be like strong trees, right, that support any kind of events for the good and the bad. Thank you, Janet, for reminding us. Oh, hey, Lori.
Buenas noches. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just grinning from ear to ear, just so happy that we're all together and so happy that there's so many women in such great leadership roles. It's not easy. And so it's just refreshing to hear about everybody's journey. And I'm just happy to be here too. And thank you just to Vanguard for thinking of this and putting it together. We don't do this enough. I can tell you that I'm the city manager of Costa Mesa. I did not ever think I would be a city manager. It's not really a career that I thought I'd have. I came into government 30 years ago. I'm also coincidentally have a lot of New Yorkers on the panel today. I'm also from the Bronx, coincidentally, also of Boricua background. And I never thought that I'd go to college. And I was in a neighborhood that was pretty significantly overwhelmed with drugs and crime coming up. And so I just wanted to graduate and maybe get married and have kids. And as I progressed in high school, and I was tapped by a teacher that really took a liking to me, thank goodness, because she brought me under her wing. And through her, it was that I really aspired to do well in school. I graduated, I went to Columbia University undergrad, and then I got my graduate degree. That changed the whole trajectory of my life. We'll talk about imposter syndrome later, but when I got to an Ivy League school, even though the Bronx was just literally 20 minutes away from Columbia University, over the bridge from the Bronx to Manhattan, it was as if I had been dropped in just a whole other part of the world. I felt like a fish out of water. I felt completely out of place. And I felt like I just didn't belong. And it was very, very tough for me to get through those 4 years. So what I want to say to the students on the call is nothing's impossible and you can do it and you belong. I didn't know that I belonged because I had never been taught that. I didn't see that in my community. And when I got there, I wasn't welcomed with open arms. When people are trading information about where you're from and you say you're from the Bronx, the room goes quiet, or when people are talking about, oh, how was your high school experience? You're like, well, I got stabbed when I was 13 and then a kid got shot when we were 14. The room goes quiet there too. There's no relating. There's no real community for you. And so that was really tough. I found my community eventually, and then I started a career in government. And I chose government because I wanted to give back. And so I'm really glad to be in Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa has a large Hispanic community, and that's part of the attraction that I had to it. 36% Latino. I'm the first woman to be city manager for the city. I basically run the city, which is, thank you, is a huge honor. We're a full service city. We provide police and fire services. But one of my main goals that I'm working through with this city council, which is amazing. We have 7 people on our council, and we have 4 Latinos on the council for the first time in the city's history. And it's to deal with the inequities that have really occurred throughout the country, but in this particular region and in Costa Mesa in particular. So I'm really happy to be the city manager here. We're working on some really exciting things. We'd love to partner with Vanguard for opportunities for some of your students to have, even leadership roles in government. And I'd love to work with you on that. There's not enough representation, and representation matters because when people see themselves in role models, they see themselves in people in the community. They see a city manager, they see a finance director, they see genetic bioengineering. What is it, Dr. Calleja, that you do? That's just amazing. They see a senator, they see pastors, they see deans, then they know that they can do it too. So I'm just really happy to be here and to share some insights about the journey along the way.
Thank you, Lori. And you touched very important points in the sense that I have so many students that really come and say, I don't deserve to be in this school. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't belong to here. Women who tell us like that, right? Like say, no, you should think for better. Like of course you deserve to be here. Of course you can be here, right? Like, or more, wherever you want it. There's no limitations for dreams. And also, like you say, like We need to support, we need to have representation matters, and mentors are super important, that they can say, oh, that looks like me, and they can go there. Of course I can do it too. Yes, I agree. Hopefully our community is growing, but also is taking important roles that they can really speak for the rest of the community. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm gonna go with Senator Shannon. If you can come and tell us if you at any point believe that you will be here with us talking about you are the senator.
So absolutely not. And I am still sitting here at this chair watching all of you, and I have a very different story, but similar at the same time. I'd like to thank Pastor, first of all, for inviting me to come and speak. What I have in common with all of you is that I love the Lord and he loves me, and every day I get up and try to do what he's called me to do for that day. I wasn't always saved. I didn't get saved till I was 21. And if those of you that know anything about this world, you can do a lot of things in the world before you're 21 years old. But I gave my life to the Lord when I was 21. I was raised by a single mom. I speak limited Spanish, and I'm not Latina, so I'm very honored to be on this panel. However, I did grow up in a small city called Arvin, which is just south of Bakersfield. My mom was a single mom. My dad left when I was about 7 months old. We didn't have any relationship with him throughout my life. My mom raised 5 kids. She went back to high school to get her diploma when she was 30 years old. I don't have a college degree. But I grew up next to the Sierras, and there was 11 of them, and I was the gringa, the güera, right? And so it gave my mom a break in the summertime. They would throw me in the station wagon, and we would all go down before seatbelts and, you know, anything that was even legal today. We would go down to Guadalajara and Nestipa, and we would spend the summers there. And that's where I spent my summers, where I learned to speak Spanish as I do. I don't have professional Spanish, but I have slang Spanish. The abuelita, I was there probably 4 hours, and the abuelita with the dirt floor, she's cleaning the dirt floor, and she says, Mia, tienes hambre? And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'm really, really hungry. And so she encouraged me to speak Spanish. And so I do have a lot of slang Spanish that I do speak. Would I think that I'd ever be here on this call, or even being a senator in the state of California? Never in a million years. I don't have a college degree. I was a pretty rotten kid. I went to a continuation high school. Things got pretty rough for me after high school. So I joined the United States military, and I went overseas to Frankfurt, Germany, and I served in the United States Army. I gave my life to the Lord when I was overseas. And when I came back, the Lord had almost laid out a path for me. I started a staffing agency. When I came back, I had worked for different staffing agencies throughout Bakersfield. And I really love the opportunity about giving someone a job. We worked with FOTEP women who had just come out of prison. We worked with West Tech people that had come out of jail or prison, men, and just to give them a job, because I believe the best solution to poverty is a job, and to have them get a job and have them be successful and be able to provide for their families. It was one of the most greatest opportunities I ever had. And so I started my own staffing business in 1993, quickly became the most billable hours, or the highest populated staffing agency in Kern County, 100% woman owned. And I was in the staffing agency, developing business, minding my own business, I guess you would say. I was on boards and commissions. I was on a deacon board at my church. I was investing in my community. I was on several nonprofit boards. And my congressman took me to lunch and asked me if I had thought about running for office. And I said, no, that's never crossed my mind. And he said, why? And I said, well, I don't have you go through all the negative things, the things that you're not, right? Because no matter what we do and what the Lord says that you are in your life, you always go back to that thing of that chihuahua, like biting at your heels, like you're never enough. And so I gave all the reasons why I wasn't enough. And then he said, would you think about it? Because you're a job creator, you've got your own business, you have 7 offices, several thousand employees. And, he just said all these great things. You're a part of the community, you invest back. And so I went home, and like 3 or 4 days later, my husband came home, and he said, you didn't tell me that they asked you to run for office. And my first thing as a woman is like, you're calling my husband, please. So we prayed and fasted over it for 21 days. And I was running against an incumbent that had been in office before. I prayed about it. We fasted over it. And the Lord I kept saying, Father God, that was my thing. You know, you talk about imposter syndrome. I'm not enough. I don't have a college degree. I don't read very well. I don't write very well. And he just kept giving me Jeremiah 33:3, you know, call on me and I'll answer you and give you all the great and searchable things that you do not know. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. If I don't know something, I can call on the Lord and he'll give it to me. So that was the scripture that I, you know, ran and held close to my heart. To my surprise, we ran in 2010 and I won by 72% of the vote. I got reelected twice in the state Senate, or excuse me, the Assembly. This was a 2-year break. Because Senate and Assembly is off of election years. And I ran after 2 years in the state Senate because I was, you know, asked to, you know, continue. I have to be honest with you, when the Assembly was over, I was really like, oh, thank you, Father God, for that time in my life being over. But now I'm serving in the state Senate. I'm on my 3rd year. I love serving the people of the state of California. I love doing everything I can to help them be successful and succeed in the business communities, to be able to provide jobs and opportunities for people. And I love mobilizing the body of Christ to engage in the civic arena, because I think that we're severely disenfranchised and not represented as believers in the state of California. And so it's definitely my great opportunity and my great honor to be here with all of you tonight. And I'll answer any questions that anybody has. And it's an honor to be on this panel with these extraordinary women that are with us.
Thank you so much, Senator. I'm pretty sure that Lori and you, I mean, no, because there are others like Wanda, Janet, myself, we don't have problems or challenge, right? But most of you work in a work with a lot of men's, and strong men's are involved. And just to be respectful, to show respectful for a women is also hard because of our society. So I think when you guys take a decision, you have to be strong, and you need to be strong to decide and say, that's it, right? We take this decision and there is no point of turn it back. So I assume it's hard. It haven't been easy. And that's probably my next question. And some of you kind of answer, because in this journey, as Janet was saying, is not flat. So what probably I'm gonna ask, what have been the fears that you have faced when you entered to this role of leadership? And I think I would like to ask Wanda first, because, you know, like, pretty sure Janet kind of told us that it's not flat, very clear. And if Wanda can tell us more specifically for her, since any of you were imagined to be here, right? And I'm pretty sure the challenge still is a challenge. So you can tell us at least one fear that you haven't faced.
I wish I could tell you just one, from because there are quite a few over the years. You know, I think that when I think about the journey that I've been on and the amount of times that I've been faced with fear, you know, that's the way that the enemy has very much attacked me, and his strategy just to distract me from going after what I believe the Lord has really prepared me for, and how he's designed me to lead. I knew from a very young age that I was a leader, and I had a community of people that didn't really believe that about me, that I was often referred to as the bossy one. But, you know, I was the bossy cousin. I was the one always in the principal's office for getting in trouble. I was always the one that was telling, shh, you're too loud, you know, quiet down. And so you kind of grow up with that, and you think, well, what space is really available for me to speak into and to really be who I am? And the journey just was really long to get to a place of confidence. And when I took a Strengths Finder inventory, and I remember being so embarrassed because my top strength is command. And I remember being so afraid of showing that result, because there I was getting in trouble again without really getting in trouble. So I share that story with you because I think that for me, it's been really being who I am and being comfortable with who and how God has created me. And I am a leader. I'm a born leader. And it took a while to finally walk in that confidence. and to use the strength that God has given me, my God-given talent, because of my upbringing and the things that I've once believed. We talked about imposter syndrome, but I think fear for me has always been in operating out of who I really am, and not being afraid of being the leader that I am in environments where I need to speak up and I need to take control and I need to lead. And when I was appointed vice president at the college, I had so many women, young students call me, alumni call me and say, I'm a VP too, I'm a VP too. And it's celebrated with me because of just the journey that they too knew, because I would often share, you know, how much I wrestled with being enough, or feeling like I could make it to the top, or that I could ever be successful. And so I think for me, it's just the ways that God has made me. There have been many a times that I tend to think, well, maybe, you know, second guessing myself. And it's just been a long journey to get to where I am today, to fully be confident that I do have command as a strength. And I'm not bossy. I'm not bossy at all. I'm a leader, and I'm a woman in leadership. And I have an opportunity to make a change in the spaces that I get to be a part of. And I get to make an impact in a lot of women's lives. And it's a gift from God.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to say that to my kids and my husband. I'm not a bossy. I just know what the things have to happen today. Thank you so much, Wanda. Janet, when I assume when you have the tsunami, when you have the tsunami, what does it feel? How you react? How you shake?
Yeah. Thank you, Itzel and Wanda. Thank you for your amazing response. I too am a leader, and I am not bossy at all. In all transparency, Itzel, I'm going to say that the fear that I face most in leadership is probably the fear of failure. Fear of failure is something that I was deathly afraid of. I have overcome it, but not entirely, in full transparency, right? Sometimes it rears its ugly head, but I've become better at knowing the root causes of the fear of failure. There's a psychological term that I'm not too sure if you know it. If you don't, I can spell it out, and maybe Norland can type it on the chat. It's called editophobia, ATYCHI phobia, editophobia, right? It's the fear of failing. And I see you're laughing, so you probably have heard of it. It's the fear of failing, but it stems from perfectionism. Right? A lot of women suffer with the fear of failing because of perfectionism. And that type of fear, when it's not checked and put into perspective, it can grow and it can paralyze us. It's something that I've experienced many times in my life. It can incapacitate our potential, our God-given potential, right? This is especially true for a lot of the female leaders that I've spoken with. One of my friends, Dr. Nicole Martin, who is a professor and a leader and an author, she wrote an amazing little book. It's called Made to Lead, Empowering Women for Ministry. And she talks about the external and the internal forces that keep us from embracing our call. And some of that fear stems itself, and everyone on this webinar stems from the pressure of having to measure up to the televised or the photoshopped women of society, right? And that's something that we need to call out. We have this image in our minds, and somehow we convince ourselves that we're less than that picture. But when we sit with ourselves, you know, my first question, I talked about self-leadership. When we sit with ourselves and ask the most important questions, I tell you that fear of failure must retreat. Questions like, who initiated the call of leadership in our lives? What did that mean? So was it our husbands? Was it man? Was it someone sitting in the pew? Who was it that initiated the call of leadership in our lives? You know, do we truly believe that God knows what God is doing when he called us? Do we believe God and that he called us for a purpose? Do we believe that the call of God can meet us in spite of where we've been, what we've done, and who we are? If we can truly answer those questions, I tell you that fear must dissipate. It has to dissipate. I love the scriptures. I dive, when I feel fear, I dive into the scriptures consistently. And there's a verse in 1 John that says, perfect love drives out fear. And some people believe that courage is the opposite of fear, but it really isn't. It's love. So if your framework of leadership is love, love for yourself, love for what you do, love for God, love for the people that you're serving, then fear must leave.
Thank you so much, Annette. You know, you just touched something very important. I never see it because I never reflect too much in leadership. I'm thinking in my field. I always think it's necessary to fail to learn the other side. I'm coming from the science background, right? But it's so hard to fail. Nobody teaches us how fail and come back. We have to be this perfection because we think that's the only way. However, at least in science, every time that you fail, you learn more. And I think, like you say, it's because the person who failed learn how to do better, who have the passion for continue to come back. And when you were asking us these questions, to say, yes, I think in my case, like Wanda was saying, like the call came from inside. I mean, nobody at least told me, oh, you're a leader, but I was just leading since I was small, right? And sometimes I was never scared. Actually, when I was a child, I was not scared. Now I think I'm more mature and I think more, I reflect more in things and I get more scared. But fear also helps us to go to the other side and see the life in a different way. And like you say, love changes everything. And love for yourself, love for your passion that you have, courage also involved. But like you say, all together to help us to go. And again, yeah, we should probably, right, think more about if that fear, it's necessary or not. And I think we should know how to control the fear, probably better than, like you say, there are moments that we shake and we don't know what to do. So I'm gonna continue our part asking to Lori, because also she mentioned about, and that is such an important topic, the imposter syndrome. Did you ever face the imposter syndrome in your journey towards leadership? Because I'm pretty sure everybody, I mean, maybe we don't recognize, but we do. So I know that you mentioned something about it. Let's see what you have to tell us.
Well, I think we've probably all felt that imposter syndrome, or we feared it. And then in some cases, our fears may materialize. In some cases, they may not. For me, most of the time, sometimes it came when I didn't even expect it. The first episode was definitely college. And for me, it was, being in Manhattan, and it's still part of New York City. New York City is a very liberal and progressive state, but not at the Ivies. And so it couldn't have been a more hostile environment for me, just feeling both socioeconomically, racially, just every way imaginable, like I didn't belong there. It was really tough. And it took a long time for me to understand that, again, right, if we're Philippians 3:14 women, and we're all striving towards the goal of what Jesus has for us and what God wants us to achieve, in a heavenly way, then we need to just follow that path. My family was instrumental in keeping me together. My grandmother, most of all, my abuela Coli, she was the matriarch of our family and the spiritual leader. And she just made sure that she centered and grounded in me that you are there for a purpose, and the purpose is bigger than you. So quit your whining and quit complaining, because you're here because you need to be there for our community and for our people and for whatever it is that God has planned for you, you're not there by mistake. You didn't get there. It wasn't luck, and it's not affirmative action. You belong there, and you're going to make it, and you're going to do well. And if you leave here, that chancla is going to be waiting for you when you get home. And so she made it very clear. Quitting is not an option. I wanted to just stay, close to home. Let's do, Bronx Community College, and I'll just commute and I'll live at home. So I didn't have to be uncomfortable being on campus with, living with other folks. Nobody's eating, rice and beans. Nobody's having chuletas. Nobody's having, carne asada. Nobody's doing any of that. And I just felt completely out of place. But it was that centering that I had in our faith-based home that made a big difference, because she did explain to me, sometimes these roles are bigger than we are. And we're here to achieve many things. A lot of it is the representation, but it's moving the needle forward, and it's taking that courage. And, Pastor Salguero, you said about, the opposite of fear is love, and courage is love. Courage is also just taking action, just grabbing yourself together and taking action in the face of fear. And so I think being courageous is the way to get through the imposter syndrome, and to remind ourselves that, in many ways, there's so many communities that were here that pre-existed before America was even founded. We know that. Grounding ourselves in Native American history, grounding ourselves in Latino history, of the fact that California was Mexico before it was ever California. The fact that there is such a strong connection and presence between Latinos and the United States of America. In our case for Puerto Rico, knowing that the Native people survived, the attack from Columbus and the conquistadores, knowing all those things, that, we're branches on the tree, and what you see is the leaves, and you see us growing outwards. But what we don't always take into account is those deep, profound ancestral roots that we have. And for those of us that are also part of the African diaspora and Afro-Latinas, it's knowing that, our ancestors were enslaved, and still survived and thrived, and their blood runs through our veins. I did my ancestry DNA a couple of years ago and found that I had 25% Nigerian. And I was like so happy about that. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't a little bit more, because I thought it was a little bit more. But I felt, if someone could have come all the way from Nigeria 300, 400 years ago and was enslaved and made it, yeah, I belong in Columbia University. And so it took me a while to get to that, but I think that's the attitude that we have to have. We're going to sometimes be pushed into situations where we will feel othered, and we just have to push past it and embrace who we are. And I love, what Wanda talked about. I'm not bossy. I'm always told that I've always been told I was too loud, but controlling and abrasive and harsh, too aggressive, very aggressive. And so I just don't hear that about men. I've never heard a man in a leadership position, never, not a boss, not a peer, not a colleague, them saying that he's too harsh or abrasive or aggressive. I just never hear that. And I've worked with police chiefs, fire chiefs, all kinds of classifications, and you just don't hear that. It's just reserved for us, but we're not imposters. We belong here. Our roots are deep, and we just got to, just grasp the ring and run with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the encouragement. And that I reflect myself that in my house, it was like that. Like, there is no another option, right? You decide to go to the school, now do it and continue. I never have probably the courage to turn it back and say, I cannot finish. And that's why I told my students, you are here, enjoy the ride, right? And it's so much for you. You really need to understand that it was a lot of people to make it for you guys to be here. Now is your turn, and you open for the next. So, and yes, my grandma also threw the chancla many times to me. That was a typical way in my home to do it. And I think now for me, when you were saying, I can see it, it's coming. But yes, it was not, I told many of my students, the girls, and say, do it. You need to be an action, not just a passive verb, right? If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a doctor. So yes, I think it's possible. And we shouldn't think that we are weird or loud, because that's how we are. Culturally, my home never is silent. Thank you for reminding us that. Shannon, I'm going to ask you this kind of question, and I'm pretty sure you have many examples. What do you think have been the hardest lesson that you have been learning in your journey in leadership?
Thank you, Isa, for that. I think it's the same as the women that have spoken before. We all grew up in a man's world, right? When I started a temporary staffing company, I didn't start it in the clerical industry, right? I didn't start it putting admin assistants out in 1993, or at that time they were called secretaries. Now they're administrative assistants. But I didn't start in my business doing that. I started with welders helpers, roustabouts, truck drivers, cogen operators. And so I operated in a man's world. And so when I think about where that left me, often I would go into meetings with Chevron as a contractor and a rightful contractor. I was a contractor. I employed people, gave people a job, and we'd have these meetings at Chevron. And more often than not, I was the only female in the room. And like the ladies were saying, the other panelists were saying, it's like people think as bossy, you know, they think it's bossy when I say, I think that's unacceptable that you didn't institute a drug test policy for this or make my suggestion. But if it comes from a man's voice or a man's perspective, then it's a great idea. Or so those were kind of the struggles that I had in business. In the state Senate, there's so in the state of California, there's 40 senators for 40 million people, and I'm one of those 40. The thing that I struggle with, I think, or where my fear comes from, is not being enough. It was in the beginning. It's not now, because I, like Wanda said, I know my place. I'm not bossy. I'm not arrogant. I'm very, it's not pride, it's proudful of where the Lord has placed me in this position, where I have the opportunity to help so many people. And so I wake up every day and I try to do my very best for my district and my constituents, and even people outside of my district that call on me for help. There's a lot of hurting people in the state of California. We have the highest rate of homelessness. We've got, you know, the wildfires, people's homes are burning. So EDD fraud is rampant, and people that need EDD are not getting unemployment, EDD or unemployment benefits. And it's a great feeling to go home at night knowing that you were able to get resources into somebody's bank account because they hadn't been able to access their EDD, or that you were able to help a single mom get off the streets and even into a hotel and into transitional housing, and also make big changes when you access resources to do things like save the Barstow Veterans Home, so that they can still operate. I have a passion in my heart for veterans. I struggled with a lot, like the other ladies on the panel said, not being enough, not feeling like you belong. I mean, little girl from Arvin, right, with no college degree, barely graduated from high school. But then there was a switch. You know, it was, I can tell you exactly where it was at. It was a worship service that I went to. And this guy walked up to me, he's an older guy. He kind of like nudged me with his walker, and I'm on the floor and I look up at him, and he said, you're enough because God has made you to be enough. And I thought, dang right? Dang right. I'm enough because my God says I am. It doesn't matter what my background is. It doesn't matter that my mom went back to school, high school, and barely got a high school diploma. It doesn't matter that I don't have a college degree. What matters is that I'm in this place and I worked really hard to get there. And right now I use every moment of every day to try to impact someone else's life for the positive. And that's what I'm supposed to do. So I challenge each of these ladies and men that are on this call. Doesn't it matter what your background is, because God can take anything out of your background and turn it into something just extraordinary for your future.
Thank you so much. And I can agree more with you. God can do such a transformation. It doesn't matter at what level you are or where you are. He can do a complete 360 of yourself. Thank you so much. And yes, I assume each of us, we have challenge in our leadership. I just want to ask, we kind of saw the hard part, right? The failed, how we feel, the imposter syndrome. So what, and I'm gonna go back and ask maybe Wanda, what are the benefits of gain from leading? So now that everybody called you bossy, or maybe you are not bossy anymore. So what did you gain? Why you want to be in this hard or challenge position?
There are so many benefits. I was thinking about this question earlier. I was actually talking to my husband about it. We have such a network of friends and community that have come from the experiences that I've had over the years. And so I think about my relationship with other members from different CCCU schools across the country and the ways that we partner together, as I'm here today, partnering with Vanguard at this event, with Norlan. And I think about where he was just a few years ago and just seeing the progression of people's lives in leadership and the opportunities that present themselves when you network with other people. And when I think about as a Latina and as a woman of color, coming from NIAC is a very diverse institution. We're right outside of New York City. Actually, right now we are in New York City, and that's another workshop we can talk through at some in the future. But NIAC is a very diverse institution. And so I've had the benefit of working at an institution that is diverse and it's intentionally diverse. And so when I got to NIAC students, there were more students that did look like me. They didn't have their stories like me, but they did look like me. And I'm very proud to work for an institution that has been intentional with this diversity. But I think of the benefits that have come from just the networking and the relationships, the mentorships that I have had. My mentor, I remember going to a conference when I became Dean of Students. And at the time, the college, all the vice presidents and our administration, they were all men. And I was appointed Dean of Students. And I remember thinking, nobody here is going to train and develop me as a leader because you're all men. And this is not going to work. And so I need to go and find a woman in leadership that serves as a Dean of Student at another institution and ask her to mentor me and take me under her wing and teach me what it's like to be a Dean of Students and to be a woman in leadership. And went on to, that relationship continued to grow. It led from a mentoring relationship to a sponsor relationship. She invited me to different conferences with her, and opportunities came for me to be at different workshops and present. And I remember her saying to me, we need to figure out how you're going to become a vice president. And she partnered with me on the journey, and she championed my whole process. And so I think there are so many benefits, but as a leader, I would say you want to tap into the leaders that have gone before you. You want to make sure that you're connecting with people that have been on the journey a little longer than you. And so I say to the students, if there's someone across campus or even at another institution that you have been intrigued by, you want to go ahead and send that email. It took me 9 months to ask for this woman to mentor me because I was so afraid. But once I did, she sent me a plane ticket and I was on my way to her institution, and I visited that institution twice a year. And again, that relationship now, we're 12 years in, and there have been so many opportunities that have led to even more networking relationships. And so benefits for me have been the relationships with colleagues across this country that I know that when I need a break from my NIAC colleagues, I can call another colleague and say, hey, listen, I need you to pray for me. I need you to, this is what I'm wrestling with. It's been hard dealing with these changes and transitions. I think we need to be there for each other. And those are the benefits that come with leadership. But you got to ask. You have to step out of your comfort zone, and you have to ask someone to help you and to mentor you and take you under their wing. And that mentoring relationship will change your life, because it's changed mine for sure.
I always tell the students, the hand that you shake is the hand that they can open the door in your future job. Or you never know. So I'm pretty sure networking, and you touch such important point for to have a mentors. That's something that we should have more often, right? Help us between each other and receive the help for others that probably they already have and they haven't done the job, and they can prepare us better. I always think it's very important to learn from others and all be training from others too. Thank you so much. I'm just looking in the time, and I wanted this question, each of you, I wanted to give you time to each of you answer. And it's, what advice would you give to Latinas everywhere who are aspiring to lead? What will you say? And I'm going to start with Janet. What will be the best tips? Because we know the way is not easy. It gives you a lot of good things too. But what will be coming from you telling us, okay, is what you have learned in this. What advice will be for us?
Know God, know yourself, know the world you live in, sharpen yourself, deploy and strike hard, ladies. Move through the chaos with grace and forge the future.
It sounds very heavy. I mean, there are very good points. He just went like directly to the point. Thank you so much. Lori, what you will let us know?
I was going to say, Pastor Salguero, she's a fighter, huh? Like I already wanted, it's like a call to arms. I'm like, get our shields, women. I don't know. I would say, yeah, be fearless. Don't be afraid to, don't think of all the things that you don't have when you're going for a position or you're trying a new opportunity. If it's coming to you and if it's coming to you effortlessly, this was always a clue for me. My grandmother would tell me, if it falls in your lap, it's because Dios te lo trajo. He's giving it to you. So don't push it away. If it falls in your lap and it's almost effortless and you almost try not to take the position, that happened to me a couple of times where I was offered something and I didn't think I was ready, or I didn't think that I could do it, quite frankly. And I feared that I would fail, and I would fail everybody. I'd fail all the Latinas, all the Latinos, every woman, everybody who thought they were a woman, anybody, everybody. I'm failing everybody on the planet. If it comes to you really easily and you're being sought for it, chances are they see it in you, and it's part of your divine purpose. And so follow your divine purpose and trust in the Lord that you are being put in places, sometimes in very difficult places, at the time that you need to be there. I became a city manager just a couple of months before the pandemic. And then I thought, why? And then I realized, okay, maybe it's because I was meant to lead this city during the pandemic. Maybe so. And maybe I was brought to bring a team that could help the city during this pandemic. And so embrace the challenge, be authentic to who you are, but be willing to grow, and don't make the list of all the things that you don't have. Remember all the gifts that you were given, that you've been endowed by our Lord and Savior. And so follow that path, especially when it just comes to you.
Very good. Don't push away your opportunities when they come to you. Take it, people. Así es. Senator Shannon, what you want to say to us?
So I just want to say that you can be the Nike swish, just do it. Just do it. I mean, the Lord knew how many doctors, lawyers, teachers that had to be on the face of this earth. And I think he puts that inner desire in our hearts. There's people that say, I was a mechanic because my dad was a mechanic and my grandfather was a mechanic. And that's generational. But, you have people that break away from that and say, oh, I've always wanted to be a designer or a flower arranger or whatever. Just do it. If God has laid something on your heart that you feel compelled or a desire to do, then work hard. Be the handshake of old. That's another thing. And I say handshake of old. Today's world is full of contracts and multiple contracts and witness signatures and all of those things. But if you can be a person of your word and you can shake someone's hand and deliver on that word, that speaks volumes, because you're only as good as the signature on that contract, right? And there's so many ways out of those contracts and all these legal things. I think if you just follow the desires of your heart, you work hard and you be the handshake of old, you will accomplish great things in life.
Thank you so much. Wanda, I don't want to leave you behind about all the possible tips that you can give us too.
I'm sorry. I would say this. When an opportunity comes, you want to take it. Don't believe the lies of the enemy, because he's always going to remind you, and the only thing he can do is speak to you from your past. He's always going to be able to speak to you from your past. So whatever it was that happened in your past is the only, I use this illustration. He kind of sits on your shoulder and he whispers in your ear and he tries to tell you, you can't, you won't, you're not good enough. But the Lord calls us forward, and he knows the great plans for us. And so if we listen to the voice of the Lord and align ourselves with the truth that he speaks to us, we will move forward, because the enemy can't see what God has for us. all he can do is distract us from moving forward. So I would just encourage the people on the call and whoever gets to see this later on, don't worry about where you were and who you used to be. The Lord knows exactly who you are and who he's called you to be, and move forward. Align yourself with the truth that comes only from God, and he'll take care of the rest.
Wonderful. I think it is, like I many times think why the Lord bring me to Vanguard, because my education have been in different, no religious school, and he knows why. And sometimes when I see the line, right, let's say, oh my gosh, I was not expected to see this. I was not even prepared, but I didn't say no to him either. So I think that's something important. Everything that you guys have been taught today to us is really appreciated. I mean, like many of you didn't know, didn't expect it to be here, right? And somehow, and probably by the Spirit of God, we haven't made it through. And I'm pretty sure more good things are coming in our way. I'm gonna come back and thank you, ladies. Muchas gracias. Besos y abrazos, kisses and hugs. I will be close to you. That's usually what I will do because I'm a very touchy person. And I need to stop because of the pandemic, but I will give you a very strong hug and probably a kiss, because that's what familia does, right? Thank you for your time. And we go back to Norland just to conclude. And I learned so much for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I mean, wow. That is all I can say, truly. And if you looked at your chat box, I was trying to type as fast as I could because there was so much knowledge and wisdom and truth. So many things that we can all utilize, that we can learn from, that we can take with us. And that's the hope for today. As you probably heard, right? 2 of our panelists are in the East Coast. It's late. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for being here and being a part of this important conversation and helping us bring a word of life. I think truly that right there, I think it really does encapsulate what we've been hearing the last 30, 40 minutes. It's words that give life. And we talked about representation, we talked about the challenges, we talked about the beauty, or you ladies talked about all this, and our cups are full. And just to go along with what you're all saying about being bossy or it's being told you're bossy, I stopped calling my daughter bossy. I told her, you're not bossy, you have boss attributes. Okay, just letting you know that my 4-year-old has boss attributes. So go ahead and demand, go ahead and do what you want to do. But it was such a pleasure. And before we end, actually, this was a joint event, really. What we did here, the planning, the agenda, the speakers. I want to give Pastor Jack Miranda a chance to just say hello to us, give some words. And because he's a pastor, even if I catch him off guard, he has something to say. So Pastor Jack, would you say something, say hello, greet us, and then we'll move forward to the end.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Norland. Speaking prophetically, he's well on his way to that doctorate, and God bless you. Well done. Well done. Oh, sisters, boy, that glass chancla fits so well. We wanted to make it a little bit light because this is a heavy subject. The students that are on right now that you just listened to, these leaders, I hope your whatever fears you continue to have or doubts, that these got wiped away pretty strongly. And everyone that we heard position at some point. And so just the encouragement and what Dr. Miranda would say, he was proud, just so proud. He loved the idea of church and campus coming together for community. And so when we have the city manager of Costa Mesa, California, from the East Coast, if you're from the East Coast, you Bronx natives, you don't know South Orange County, California. She is absolutely just an icon. And then Senator Shannon Grove, God bless you. We wanted her story because God knows what he's up to. And if you'll just let him. And so that's what we're hearing. So I just cheer you on. What Dr. Miranda would say to all of you, educators, Sister Bellis, they're at NIAC. I just looked NIAC up today. Somebody made the audacious statement that you're the most diverse campus in the country, and of course I got defensive because here in the in the West Coast we're going, oh no, we've got Hispanic serving institutions all up and down the state. We are ahead of our game. In fact, Cal State Northridge just started something called the Global HSI Equity Innovation Hub. And that's Hispanic serving institution. That's to get our students, male and female, brown students, into the STEMs. And so Senator Grove, really my motive was, did you know that Northridge received $25 million from the state of California? And then Apple Computer came in and augmented some of that. And that's where the hub's starting. We want Vanguard to compete with NIAC as far as that goes. And so God bless you. Just I'm amazed at what you, Dr. Norland, thank you. Thank you for what you've accomplished, all the visitors and guests, and of course our students. We love you. Dr. Miranda would say, it's all ministry, sisters. It's all ministry. The state senator, the city manager, the professor, the nonprofit organizer, the Salgueros doing things outside of the church. Dr. Miranda would say it very simply. Ours is a civic spirituality, demonstrating divine grace on Sunday and good works on Monday. And so I just saw that exampled right now during that. So let me also, while I said that, let me encourage you, if you do have a pulpit ministry, preach, sisters, preach. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Jack Miranda. And I want to be very respectful for your with your times, everyone's times. Thank you once more. Muchísimas gracias. Wanda, Jeanette, Lorianne, Shannon, thank you. Truly, this has been a blessing. You can see the chat box is just blowing up with just appreciation and what it's meant for the audience. To see Latinas, to see women, to see leadership in action and honest, transparent conversation. It has truly been a blessing. There was a question, when is the next one? We will plan it soon. Be on the lookout. This is why you need to follow our Instagram. Okay, shameless plug there. It's okay. But thank you so much. We will end here. We don't have any questions in the chat box. And again, thank you. Buenas noches. God bless you all. We will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Gracias. Adiós.
Thank
Adios.
you.